software. You load the deal in there, and it scrapes information for you.
Yep. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up real quick. All right, so this is NoteUnlimited, and as you mentioned, Eddie, I've already got the asset that we're discussing from PaperStack preloaded in. So one of the things I did do, Eddie, is I went back and I watched some old videos of Ray and how he used to present, just to kind of get into the same groove, because I can tell you, going through a piece of software and presenting it is two different things. So today is going to be a little bit of a trial for me too, to see how good a job I present and how this all works.
Well, and let me encourage all of you on the chat board. If he messes up anything, you know, or he just stutters just a little bit, you guys go on and get on the chat board and let him know.
We'll share all that, right?
Yeah. Well, then I can take notes and go back and know it.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we grant him some grace and let him have his first day on the bull? And but then if there's something that would be helpful, then you guys type that in there. How about that?
Yeah, I think that would work. All right, so we're going to go into this, and we're going to just look at the property to start off with. So we look at the property, gives us an idea of what the property value is. And like I said, this is in Inglewood. Property value is sitting around 195 if you average the two. So you've got Realtor.com at 193 and Zillow at 197. And this is a free.
Can I say one thing here? So
sure.
Zillow, Realtor.com, they're all in there. They're all as part of the software linked to that so that you can pull it in.
And sometimes there's more. So one thing that these guys have added, so I'll point out a change. In the past, what the software used to do is scrape data from sites. Scraping and an API are two different things. If you have an API, it's an actual hook into a platform where it's actually extracting the data real time instead of just scraping stuff off the top. So it's basically, think of it getting the gold versus getting the sludge. If you're scraping data, you're getting the sludge at the top. If you have an API, you're getting the gold. And that's what they're doing now. So their numbers and their data is way, way better than it used to be when they were scraping in the past. So that is significantly improved.
You never heard me complain about that in the past, did you, Joe?
Not at all. So yeah, just kind of let everybody know, because like I said, we got a lot of new folks here that haven't seen this. So how that kind of interacts and how these fields come up, right? That they're direct, I guess, an API. All of the fields are. Just kind of explain that so that people get it. I mean,
yeah. So let me go back to the actual note. So I'm going to go back to the note. Now this was preloaded. So both platforms.
You preloaded it, Wayne. You did.
I did. But it's PaperStack and Notes Direct. You can export the data in what's called a CSV file. It's an Excel file, basically. Right. You can export it. Well, this software can import or intake that file. And it's literally just a drag and drop. You can just drag it over into the field, and it takes and it imports all those numbers for you. Right. And then you have the ability to fine-tune it if you find there was a number that wasn't right, or through your due diligence process, especially with PaperStack. Once you start doing due diligence, you find that a number is not quite what it was. You can go tweak those numbers, and then it freshens everything up. So your LTV, ITV, all of those numbers get refreshed based on any changes that you put in there. So this is our basic note. This is all the terms on the note. One of the things I did was on the PaperStack listing, and sometimes, Eddie, they do this on the PaperStack listing. The original balance was listed as a penny, and I knew that was crap. So I went in and calculated what the original balance based on the start date was, because I had everything else. I had a payment, interest rate, the maturity date. So I used all that information to kind of reverse engineer. If it started here and it ended here, this is what that original balance should have been at that date. So it goes in and gives you if you buy it, at the price that PaperStack is selling, it's got a 12.2% yield built in based on the discount that's already there. That was one thing I liked about the note. Gives you a return on investment, how much equity you have. And this is just looking at it in just the raw numbers.
Yeah. By the way, the number that we would say is an accurate number is the yield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So when you're asking us the gold standard for measuring, the return in our space is the yield is the way we calculate it. We don't, Bob and I do not look at things like ROI. You can do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's in there. I wouldn't tell them not to have it, but it's not. That's not our gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to do you, a disclaimer.
Sometimes you can have too much data, right? And then you get all eyed with all the different numbers.
It's not an 18% yield.
No.
So I don't want people to go 18%. It's 12. It's a 12 yield, which is great. It's a 12 yield.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out on the actual PaperStack listing, Eddie, was at the top. So they advertise this as, of course, a very good note. Now, they say the owners lived in the house since 1989. And they also say that, so here's the hair on this deal, just to kind of, fully disclose. So, and I'll show you guys the payment history, but they pay late, and they pay late quite a bit. And then they also like to pay for forced place insurance. So, and you see that on the pay history. Now, it is serviced by Allied, so that's good. But I just thought that was something interesting. And, they're advertising this as a very good note for first-time buyers. So if you're a first-time note buyer, this is the note for you.
I had a guy.
They're selling though, right?
Yeah.
I had a guy on one that I'd owned years ago, and he paid late every month. And I called him. I knew him, right? Little house we had sold here, and I called him. I said, "Hey, it's due on the 1st. You pay it on the 20th. We'll just change your payment so you're not getting hit with a late charge. You don't worry about how I pay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not changing anything." I said, "Okay, we'll just keep charging you the late charge every month. No worries."
Yeah.
Here's the problem with people paying late. The problem with paying late is the servicer sometimes charges you more than the late fee.
Yeah.
And the other thing about forced placed is, they have to go pay for the premium for the policy, and then you get reimbursed. You can't make profit on forced place, so you can't charge them another amount of money. So those are things that listen, you can look at a picture of the house, and you can look at the loan balance, and you can say, common sense tells me this is a very good, solid, equitable deal, right? So one of the things that they did a lot is they built in a lot of analytics about population and age and stuff. And it's all really cool, and why would you not have it? It's really good. Yeah. But Wayne, you ever hear me say don't over-engineer it?
Yes.
Okay, what I'm saying to you guys when you're looking at this due diligence, don't say, well, I wouldn't buy a note on a property if it, the average age in the neighborhood was 68 versus 48. Or don't make up some crazy criteria. It is good information, and there might be times that one of these pieces of information really would sway you one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It does give you a sense of how the area is trending, right? Just don't make up. I've seen students think up some crazy criteria and put in those blanks, and I wouldn't touch it if it had this or that and stuff. And I'm just saying, we're happy to discuss whether I would make that a sword I would fall on or not. So if you have a particular deal down the road, then know that I don't see anything here that looks particularly weird. But
Yeah.
is it a small town? I guess that's the biggest thing.
It is. It's outside of Atlanta. It's south of Atlanta. I don't know, probably 15 miles, 20 miles outside of Atlanta. So yeah, it's kind of on the rural
It's
side.
a bunch of metro then.
Yeah.
Okay. So the biggest thing I would be concerned about there is probably crime analytics.
Yeah, and the thing of it is sometimes, Eddie, you get into these more rural areas, and the crime analytics are a little bit hard to come by. As you can see on even NoteUnlimited, I'm still showing pending on crime score. So the places that they're pulling the data from, they don't have data for this area.
Or they can look higher than they really are because the percentages are off in a smaller town. I've seen that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I even
What's
just
the website, Joe, that you use for crime?
crimegrade.org.
Crimegrade.org, yeah.
And crimemapping.com.
All right.
So you kind of have to bounce between them. So one of the things you want to look at redeeming, non-redeeming, Eddie, or do you want to look at the partial pledge configuration?
Well, let's look at the redeeming versus non-redeeming first, and then we'll look at the math, and then we'll have a little vote.
Okay. So for me, and I went through this a little bit, but as with the criteria that I've got on mine right now, because this is my instance of NoteUnlimited. So as you can see right now, everything's redeeming. So you've got all these things for redeeming and nothing on non-redeeming.
Yeah.
So it's a solid 3-bedroom. It's got a good healthy P&I payment of $698, which is a good P&I payment. Non-judicial foreclosure, ITV of less than 85%. LTV of less than 85%, good equity position, investment to balance, and you can change all this. So if you go down here where it says configure, you can go in and you can decide which one of these things is important to you and what is not. And then you can go in and
build automation in the redeeming versus non-redeeming section.
Exactly.
And so you can set your own criteria.
You can set your own criteria. You can make your filter squeaky tight, or you can make the filter.
You could say that investment to value is not more than 75%.
Yeah.
And loan to value is not more than 85%. That's an example.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Investment to value on this deal is probably a little high at 85.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be easy to fix it.
Exactly. It would be. You can go in there and change that. You can say, I want something, less. That you can change that number. You can put it down at 75.
Like it. That's really cool. That's actually a really cool feature.
And then you can print it off into a report. So if you're making a pitch to a private investor, well, now you can go in and save this as a PDF, and it gives you the picture. And one of the things that's coming up in an update, Eddie, is the ability for you to be able to insert your own pictures, because sometimes the picture that Google has may not be the greatest picture.
Right.
You may have a better source. And so they're going to have it to where you can put your own pictures in, because they're trying to make this where you can use this, like I said, to present to a private investor. You can take this and do that.
Super equitable deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super equitable. 23% investment to value.
All right, so let's go in and let's look at partial pledge. So this is the new partial pledge. This is way different than what it used to be, Eddie. I went in and watched some old videos and saw how it used to look just to remind myself. And this is quite different. So what I liked about the pledge calculator, you can calculate this. If you're going to, or partial, if you're going to sell a partial, you can figure this out in a lot of different ways. So if you know that, I don't know, say I want to sell $40,000 worth of payments.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm going to give, well, I don't know, Eddie, since interest rates are going up, should I give my partial investor 7%?
I've kind of moved up to about 7.
Okay. So let's figure, well, how many months am I
I
going
mean,
to
they could invest in the stock market today. How did it end up?
Yeah.
All 3 indexes were kind of down: the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P. So
No. All right. So let's click on 70 months. So I clicked on the little magnifying glass, and it tells you click to calculate the field, and it comes up and says, okay, you need to sell 70 months of payments. Then it comes down and it gives you, okay, well, here's your remaining and sold, your percentage of payments, and then you get this nice little chart, and it even dynamically shows you each month how much is going to the partial, how much is going to the full note. And you can see, so if you're like, well, if it paid off at this point, how much would we get? You can see that from month to month, all the way down to what pays off.
By the way, that is a truth so long as you use the partial sale agreement that is in the NoteSchool membership site. Don't use somebody else's partial agreement, and don't use Allied's, because that ain't how it's going to be.
Mhm.
It's going to be a different set of numbers, and you ain't going to like it. Just saying.
Right.
So, but that is really cool. That is just really, I mean, now how much does this note cost?
So this note costs $45,600.
All right, so go 45,500.
Okay.
Now go 44,600.
$1,000.
$1,000 investment. 81 months.
81 months. Right there. And then look at all that you have as pure money in your pocket. Quite a bit. That's pretty good.
When it says 81 months, that partial graph at the bottom is not, that graph doesn't look right to me.
Okay.
Okay, I tell you why it is. It starts at payment 274,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
so that's what the issue is. It starts at payment 274. It doesn't start at payment 1.
Right.
So that 81 month term there that's in the purple, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
that's because it goes from 271 to 354 or something like that.
Right. It's picking up the amortization table where it thinks that you're currently at in the payment schedule.
Right. It doesn't start from payment. It doesn't call you collecting your first partial payment at payment 1. It calls you at 275.
And then if you come down in here, it gives you 2 amortization tables. So it gives you the full note am to the left, and to the right, it gives you the partial am. Now, the partial am, it shows a 1, and then it puts the full in parentheses.
That's good.
So you can
Once
get a
again,
comparison.
Those amortizations are driven on the way you paper up the partial agreement. Okay? Our partial agreement is written in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most advantageous for the guy selling the partial. Partials frequently have a prepayment penalty baked into them. So if you use not our partial agreement, the odds are you're using somebody else's partial agreement, the math isn't going to be to your favor. So this is really important that you understand they've baked these amortizations in because of what we taught them was possible.
Yep.
Right. So I'm just making sure that Joe's point out we have new students in there, and other industry people do not structure it that way. Now, Joe, your question would be, why wouldn't they do it? If it's the best for you, why wouldn't they do it? And the answer is, Eddie don't know.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that word come out of your mouth. I've never heard that.
And he thinks he knows because he thinks they are not getting the juice out of the lemon.
Yeah, there you go.
But then he don't know because he's trying to make the industry aware of it, and they still, well, they don't do it.
Well, you know what they say about that horse and lead them to water, right?
Yeah. Very good. I love this. This is great.
Yeah, like I said, I've really appreciated working with Vlad and Yakov, and they're very willing to continue to improve this software to make it the best piece of software it can possibly be.
So what we have done in the past, Wayne, is that we've made this software available. They've been willing to work with us on a discounted basis, you know, where that you can buy it through us.
Right.
Give you a little trial period, and they buy it through us. And so I don't want to make any assumptions, but when you talk to them, make sure that's still a thing, and we'll try to define what that is.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. No problem. All right. You want to run a poll, Eddie?